Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We have an incredible guest for you today. She is an industry thought leader, a certified mortgage banker, an expert at industry engagement, and a realtor. The list could go on and on and on, but more importantly, she's just a great person. I couldn't be more pleased to welcome Faith Murphy, Agent Success Manager, Go Mortgage. Faith, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy you finally had me. I just needed to get one more certification to be on the show. Real estate.
Well, you have plenty of them. You have a wealth of knowledge and experience. I couldn't be more excited to talk to you. Before we get rolling, for our listeners who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background. You have so many great experiences and kind of how you got into mortgage.
Yeah, so I started in the industry in 2003, working at a company called Clear Capital, which is, everybody knows about Clear Capital, one of the largest AMCs out there now. We just doing broker price opinions. I was one of 15 people. And from that, I got my license as a real estate agent in California. And then the market crashed. Like everyone, the implodometer showed up on everyone's websites, and we started watching, the lenders slowly tick away, and we all transformed. And I think I left Clear Capital at that time, and I went to help another valuation company start more on the commercial side. And then AMC's formed. I went back to Clear Capital. I got my certified mortgage banking designation. I think like anybody, you never really leave the industry. You just evolve with it. And that's what I've done. And I'll fast forward a little bit to my current position, which I've been here for about a year and a half. And I've never worked on the lender side of things. And so I spoke to our CEO, Chad Giampedro, and he said, I want somebody to specifically work with real estate agents, kind of understand the psychology of a real estate agent. Let's perfect the relationships that we have with them and go out and meet new ones. And so this has been a huge learning experience for me, especially with the social media. As you know, I reached out to you actually, right when I started here. I'm like, oh, I have to do video. Can you help? Yeah.
Well, and we'll start there because you and I have never met in person, but with COVID and everything else, you reached out, we've engaged through social media, we've developed a wonderful friendship. I love what you do with your videos. You've got newsletters.
Yeah.
Talk about how important engagement is in this digital world, in this COVID world, in 6, 8, 10 feet of snow from some of the areas that you're in. So talk about the importance of digital and more importantly, how you kind of just got started and started doing stuff to engage with other industry thought leaders.
Right. So I was looking for my tribe. I know that's a word that gets thrown around there, but it is so true because when I started out in the industry at 23, you're considered a kid. And there's a lot of people that want to step on you or step over you or whatever. They don't want to take you by the hand and help you. And so I reached out to a lot of people. It finally broke me, right? It humbled me when I took this position because and with COVID, like you said, I had to reach out to people. I didn't have a choice anymore. And I always looked at social media as a place where people put their, wannabe lives on camera and they're not authentic and, everything that and I'm like, I can't go there. How do I find my own way? And so that was a huge part of me even starting to get comfortable was, consulting with you, consulting with folks like, Sue Hazel, Casey, Wade Hughes, like she's amazing. And just, really taking off the mask and asking people for help. And then just doing it every day, right? Being consistent, even when you don't want to be. Like, even with exercise, it's like working a muscle. When you don't want to go to the gym, you still go because you're going to get the benefits from it. So that's kind of how I looked at it. And now I'm starting to be like, not that I don't care what I look like, but I'm going to be me,
Exactly. Well, you brought so many good points up in that quick statement of you just started reaching out to people. And what I found, people now are willing to help other people.
Right.
They're not looking just to step on you or over you.
Yeah.
They'll share, hey, here's what I use for video, or this is how I got lighting, or this didn't work for me. There is so many wonderful people who have helped me. I remember doing that first video, and I agree with you. Like social media, I'm like, why am I going to? I did one selfie in my life before my first video.
Right. Yeah.
And it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. The first video I do, a good friend of mine instantly fired off on social media. Hey, it looks like you're wearing earrings, because I had AirPods in. And I'm like, really, that's the first comment, but to your point, once you start doing it, that consistency, you just get very comfortable doing it. And then it's just genuine, authentic. It's first take. If there's if there's a this, if the lighting didn't work great, or if the dog barked in the background, you just keep going. And I find that authenticity really fosters a lot more engagement than something that is so polished, so perfect, that it almost comes across as unbelievable.
And you know what else? I'm trying to tap into my dating life, because I think it's funny. I online date. So talk about being comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? And I should be fine doing all the social media, but it was still a big step. But I relate that to online dating too. It's like, you're trying to put your best foot forward, but you still have to be your real self. You can't be fake. So.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about engagement. You have such a wonderful background with your real estate license. You're a certified mortgage banker. What are some of the things that agents need the most of? And I'm sure you get this question all the time, but what do mortgage companies, what do lenders, what do loan officers need to do a much better job engaging and adding value to agents?
Right. And that's a really good question. Working on that kind of a PowerPoint right now about that for a presentation I'm doing with one of our groups out of Ohio. So when I started, I'm like, how do I engage with and make a relationship with somebody that I've never met on social media? And I started listening to tons of podcasts. And one of the ways that I think the biggest way, and I know it sounds, it's a lot of work because it takes time, and time's the one resource we cannot get back, but you have to go onto their social media pages and actually comment. I know Chelsea Pites talks about, I think there's, the spend 5 minutes across.
Drive-bys.
Exactly. Don't just post and ghost, right? So literally really engaging with them, sending them a direct message and saying, hey, can I get on a call with you? Because technology can only do so much. My newsletter goes out. Yes, I create it and then I send it. But if I don't follow up with those people, it's worth nothing. So you have to continue to follow up and build a relationship. It's still the human factor. And that's why, I used to be one of those people that thought technology was going to take over. We're not going to have jobs, in 10 years, whatever. We always will have a job because we need that human interaction. We need a real person on the other end of that comment or that post, or the like or whatever you want to send. But I think that's the biggest thing. I've heard communication still is a big issue out there with loan officers, and of course appraisal times, which not everybody can control. And then,
right.
We also can get into, hey, we like leads, but that's, of course, everybody wants more leads. But the biggest things that I can control and that loan officers can control to build new relationships with real estate agents is definitely interacting on social media, engaging on the posts, and putting the effort in.
Well, and you're so right about putting in the effort and actual engagement. I when I talk about it, I always use 3 pillars. The first one is if you don't expand your network,
yep,
and you have 2 people following you, then nobody cares how great your post was, right? So you've got to continue to reach out and grow. The second is posting, and you did a great job of just don't post and ghost. But the third, and this is what I think people get wrong all the time, is to your point, was they don't engage with anyone's content, and then they're wondering why no one engages with them.
Exactly.
Part of the social is interacting and say, hey, Faith, I really enjoyed that video. I loved how you talked about this aspect of realtors, or this is what mortgage companies can do. When you reference something that was in somebody's video or something that was in their post, most of the time they're going to click like, and then they're going to say, hey, thanks a lot, Faith. Hey, thanks a lot, Michael. Thanks a lot. And that kind of starts attracting like-minded people. Molly Dowdy over at Next was the one who said, Michael, just put yourself out there and don't worry what people think. Yep. She was the first person I ever had on my podcast, and she said, When you do that and you're just genuine, you'll start attracting like-minded people. And the people that don't like you, they're just going to go away. Don't worry about it. And that was probably one of the best tips I got starting out, was just feeling comfortable doing that. All right. So we're right on the doorsteps of 2022. What are some of the things you see in the market for 2022, and how's that going to impact the lender and the real estate agent? Refis will be down. Give me some updates and kind of insights from that perspective.
So my perspective, because I interview real estate agents across the country too, the market is not slowing down, right? I know the new variants, the new Omicron or whatever it's called is starting to scare people, but I think we keep our heads down and we keep doing a good job with engaging with real estate agents. If we're talking from a lender side, from a real estate agent side, get out on social media and do more video, because that's where it's at. I'm actually hosting, not to pitch something, but
pitch it. I want to hear it.
With Go Mortgage, we do a lot of webinars and a lot of great content. We've had Brittany Hodak on creating super fans, Barry Habib, he's awesome, on projections and engaging with agents and your buyers, etc. But real estate data, right? Anything that's educational, love doing now. So we're having Kristen Meserly on. I believe it's January 12th, and it's going to be awesome about connecting with the consumer in the digital, world, and cultural empathy, things like that. So I think the biggest thing I would say that I still haven't done, so I focused on video this year, is if I was a real estate agent, find my niche, right? Who do I really want to serve? What am I passionate about? And if I'm a loan officer, it would be to comment more and get out there and do your own video and bring value, because you have to bring value. You have to do something different, because everybody has great rates, right? Everybody has good turn times.
Yep.
Everybody does this. You have to differentiate yourself somehow. And I think that's what I love about Go Mortgage. I'm going to plug it again, is that they saw a need to fill, just a position for somebody to focus straight on the real estate agent relationship and create and expand those relationships. And what do they need? And it's been humbling, that's for sure. Because
so let's talk a little. You do a great job with videos, right? And I remember our first conversation. I don't want to get on video. I don't really want to do this. I don't feel comfortable. What are some of your tips? What are some of your best practices for those people that are sitting on the fence? And you and I both know, if they're going to be successful in 2022, they can't sit on the fence with video. Right. What are some of the tips or suggestions, best practices you would share from a video perspective for people?
Yeah, I've got a good one, actually. So my comfort zone is outside, right? I love to run. I'm training for another ultra marathon. So I started doing more videos outside, and I knew that I wasn't going to be dressed up and uber professional. I wasn't going to have makeup on or anything like that, but I was going to be comfortable in my space. And I think that that's my biggest tip, if I can offer any. Of course, you can re-record and try and get perfect lighting, but I would go into a space that you feel most confident or comfortable in your own skin and start there.
That is such a good tip. And you do a fabulous job of that, and that's why I love the videos. You're climbing up a mountain, you're in front of the water, but what comes across is that genuine, authentic faith. And now I'm pulled in that I want to hear more.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the magic. And it doesn't, for the people listening, you don't have to go out in nature. Do yourself. Kevin Perenio, a lot of times he's in his office at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, and he's sitting there, but he also will do those walks every once in a while. Yep. And so I would just, to your point, find that comfort zone. Everyone has a cell phone. Record off the cell phone then. You don't have to worry about perfect lighting. You don't have to spend all kinds of money on equipment, and you can still produce high quality. The other point you made, I think this is critical, and this is an area that I think a lot of people talk about, but they don't really know how to execute when it is, how do you add value? Right. Do you have any tips on that? Because I talk to loan officers all the time. And they're like, Michael, you told me I had to add value to the realtor relationship. What does that mean? Do I got to buy them stuff? What are some of your tips on how people actually add value?
Right, absolutely. And that's another thing that I really struggled with when I started doing video. Why is someone going to want to listen to me? They don't even know who I am, right? So, little old me getting all scared and back into my shell. So I started listening more and more to what real estate agents actually need, or where the process was broken, or telling a story. Everyone says tell a story. So a story about how you added value to a recent deal that you closed, or a conversation that you had, or maybe you answered the phone and it was Christmas Day and you calmed a real estate agent down as a loan officer. There's several different ways, but another thing I recently learned, get out of your own space and take some time every week to go in and just look back on the week that, you had and think about, I think that when you get out of your own space, I'm always sitting here. If I go to a coffee shop and I work one day a week, maybe I'll get more creative ideas out of that coffee shop than I would just sitting and doing the same thing over and over again. So that's just an idea on how to, create value, or remember how to create.
Well, and I think especially with COVID, with all these new variants, it's easy for people just to kind of get in their own little bubble and stay there. And I'm not saying not to be safe, but I agree with you.
Right.
Get out, clear your head, go for a walk, go for a car ride,
Yep.
Do something that gives you a little bit different perspective.
Right. Like snow
and
angels.
it's going to help. Right. Exactly. I mean, you said what, 6-8 feet of snow
10
where
feet
you're
of
at. I mean, so I think that's critical that when people talk about value, the other thing I really like that you said, and I hope our listeners heard this, please go back and take down notes. Talked about Faith, started with, if you really want to do a good job of adding value, first you got to listen and kind of basically, you were saying, put yourself in their shoes.
Right.
What are they saying? What are their needs? What are their friction points? What are some of the challenges they're having? And when you can then speak to those, people want to listen, right? They're like, hey, that was a really good insight. Faith, thank you so much. Yes, I'm struggling with that. That's part of, we're talking about people getting on video, getting social, leaning into digital is critical, not just because of, COVID, but it's where the industry is going. And what I have found for some of the live events that I was able to attend in 2021,
Right.
those relationships and those personal interactions were so much stronger because of the effort I put in digital previous to those.
Right. Exactly. And it's where your kids' friends are going. So whether or not I wanted to go there, and I don't have children, it's where the kids are. They are on the internet. So think about it like that, and how long has everybody been talking about going digital? Years and years. It's time to make the move. And another thing I will say, and I think that this is a great idea to find people's pain points and create value around video, is I surveyed a lot of real estate agents. If there's one thing you need next year, what is it? Is it more communication? Is it leads? And create videos around those, because you're in the weeds every day. You should know already, but I think asking the question, why not?
Well, and I love that. So what's that one thing that that is a great question. I hope all of you just wrote that down again. I mean, because so many times we assume we know, or we assume they know that we know. And instead of just ask the question, hey, what could we do to better serve you? What is one of the pain points that you're struggling with this year? Faith, you and I could continue to talk forever. I am so delighted that you and I finally were able to connect. We've been trying to make this podcast happen for a while. I can't thank you enough for all of the wonderful insights. So Faith, thank you for being a guest on this episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast.
Thank you.